I'm here. Hello, everybody. It's me. I'm late. I almost forgot my microphone. So it's me. If I say 8, let's just assume it's 8. Let's just assume it's 8:10. I'm here 4 minutes early. Hi, Di and husband and Copper Horse and Christina is here. And I have so many mods. This is probably like the most like mods to like chat ratio. Hi, Mitzi Scott. I hope we're doing well. I haven't talked to you for a while. Oh, I am top chat. Thank you. Yeah. So I thought we could just do a little live stream. Just happy birthday to Amber. She would have. Oh, can you guys hear me okay first? Is everything all right? Can you see me okay? Yeah, and so just a little happy birthday to Amber. Yesterday she would have turned 43, and there's a whole bunch of birthdays around Amber's birthday. So happy birthday to Di, who had hers last month, and I had my birthday this month, and Christina just had her birthday the other day. And so, happy birthday to anybody else that had a birthday, and happy birthday to Amber. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Diane Copperhorse. Because I remember my microphone. Otherwise the audio probably wouldn't be so good. Yeah, and I'm not going to be able to provide everybody with any new information about Amber's stuff right now. There will be a day when I'm going to be able to tell everybody a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. But right now, yeah, it's just happy birthday to Amber. And yeah, and then for Amber's birthday, Christina came up with the idea that if anybody wants to donate to this organization, it's I'm pretty sure I went to the right place. Christina, if this is wrong, this is still a great looking group. If you want to donate anything to Text for Text, which is an organization founded by a woman who, well, she worked on Wall Street apparently at first, but then after success there, she decided to go into social work, and that's where she worked with a lot of children who came from neglected and I mean, I'm gonna say the word abuse because I don't know if Chris wouldn't want to say it, but I have like a small channel, so I'm sure I can say it right. I don't know, because I don't know how else to abbreviate that. I did go to the right place. Excellent. And yeah, and so she decided after working with these children that she was going to help try to make the lives of more children better as they grew up, and try to make their situations better when it comes to neglect and abuse. And so this is based out of Texas. And yeah, and Christina found this is a great looking group. There's facts on their website. 1 in 10 American kids live in Texas, which is crazy. 4 in 10 calls the Texas hotline do not qualify as the state's definition of abuse or neglect and are often families needing resources. So this woman Chris's chat says CP all the time for Chris Profit, even though it usually stands for something way more horrible. So Chris has bigger problems than the A word. Okay, we'll call it the A word. And then I'll just say ass, ass, ass instead of that so we don't get confused when I say the A word. Yeah, I got my microphone right in front of my monitor that I'm looking at, by the way, because it had to go up quick. So if you see me peeking over something, it's because I'm looking over my microphone. This is a really professional setup over here. I'm not set up in my office right now. There's this long, drawn-out reason for that. Mostly, we'll go into that later. Anyway, this is a good professional setup. 159 children a day. Okay, this isn't funny. I'm peeking around to find these facts. 159 children a day are confirmed victims of A word and or neglect. Less than 2% of families that most likely to benefit from prevention programs currently receive services. So, a 98% improvement would be great. And so that's what this lady is set out to do. 58,120 total confirmed victims of child CA and or neglect and or neglect were in 2023. And so if you want to donate in Amber's honor, let us know in the chat that you donated. I hear Chris donated. He was thinking about doing a donation thing for his live stream, but I didn't get to see his live stream because his live streams just come up at the worst time of day. If he did I don't know, morning live streams or really late at night live streams, it'd totally be better than the time of day when I got a lot of stuff to do. Those are shocking numbers. So, yes, I think Chris did a donation thing on his live stream. You donated 300? That is also a shocking number. Thank you, Di. Christina, did I win yet? To see who donates the most? Did I win? Did my chat donate the most? Thank you, Di. That's so awesome of you. It will go to help so many kids in need in Texas. Once you get, with these kinds of groups, once you get through administrative fees, a little bit of money can go a long way. Chris did. That's cool. Yeah. I think he was saying, he was going to do 50% or something of his donations. We're going to go to this, so thank you so much, Di, and, but yeah, nobody should feel obligated to do this in here. It's just, I thought a good idea, and to copy Chris and take Christina's advice. Those are things I do a lot. Copy Chris and take Christina's advice. And also take Di's advice and get encouraging words from her. Hi Sam, take SPM, which are initials. That's my best friend from one of my best friends from they're in Colorado now. I almost said Texas. You guys are not in Texas. You guys are in Colorado. I hope everything's going well in your city right now. I know you guys are dealing with some issues outside of the Aurora, Denver stuff. And I'm going to talk to Becca either later tonight or maybe tomorrow. Zach and I still have to eat dinner. Hi Becca, Java Jive. So this is a nice group. This is a great group. We don't need anybody else in here. And Max, if you're there. Hello. Becca and Sam's little boy Max. He's great. So yeah. So I thought I'd share this page with you and let me know if you donate to it. You don't feel like you have to if you're not in the if you're not able to. I know it can get awkward when people ask for donations and you can't really spare anything. It can feel uncomfortable, so don't feel obligated to if you can't. But do know about this group for Amber, and maybe share it around if you want to for Amber, in honor of her. So I'll leave that up here. And if anyone donates to text or text after seeing it here, please mention the channel and Amber in the comment section of the donation form. Oh, excellent. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, Zach and I will be donating after the live, because Zach's in front of his computer doing some things right now, and I will accidentally show you my credit card information if I do it right now, so we will do it afterwards. But we definitely will. And I will add it to the 300 total so far. And how much, do you know how much that Chris was able to get donated during his live stream? If not, I'm just nosy. But yeah, as happy birthday, Amber. I could sing for you guys happy birthday if you wanted. But I'm sure you guys will say, no, that's okay. So I won't do it yet. Yeah, then I thought I'd share with you guys just little updates on things that I've been doing. And I got some ERI images if you guys wanted to see. And I'll explain what's in the ERI images because it's confusing. Chris sent 300 because he rounded up half of his donations for that live. Oh, Chris donated 300. I thought Di did, because Di is so generous. Di, you could just say it was you. And then we'll just give 300. No, wait. I should run that by Zach first. Beginning of the month, you will donate for sure. Thanks, Mitzi Scott. So at least, yeah, know about this group, and if you, from time to time, just share it around. If you can't give them anything, because you know, the spreading the word will help them too. And if you don't even do that, just thank you for listening. Yeah. I don't think I was awkward just now. Let's see. I get really awkward sometimes. I just feel like that was maybe one of my awkward moments. Yeah, so I had probably the world's most fantastic. Oh, I didn't download onto my computer any of the images of my world's most fantastic field assistant. She wasn't an assistant. She was like a field tech. I've never had somebody help me so well in the field before. And that's no joke. Well, first of all, like, grad students are worthless. When you have a grad student help you, you might as well just be doing it by yourself. Or like people that are supplied like as assistants during work from like a city. Like if somebody that somebody that works for the city is gonna come and help me, they like to ask a lot of questions and stuff like that, but that usually like slows me down. I also had somebody from a city, literally, like, you need to couple electrodes, like, each point that I put the current into the ground, you need to couple those to the ground really good, like, they can't be moving around and stuff. And I had somebody from a city once, I was like, you know, just touch it to make sure it doesn't jiggle. And he, like, literally went through and, like, jiggled all of my electrodes back and forth, and they were all loose. And it was, like, literally the opposite of what I wanted. And, Yeah, and so just there's just I've never had anybody so the bar was very low. No, I've had some good people. Like well, first of all, did I say it was Di? Did I say that Di came and helped me? And I have pictures of it. She was great. I have never had anybody help. Like I've never been able to go through a line that quickly. Like usually to get a line out, measured all the electrodes into the ground, cables connected, and then connected to the box, enter this information into the box, which that part doesn't take a lot of time. And then sit and have it collect. Really, the collection time differs depending on the ground, because if the ground's really conductive, it doesn't take as long to send the current through the ground, because it sends each data point gets collected a few times, and if the box just clearly sees that a point is going to be about the same every time it sends the current into the ground, then it won't take as many points. But if like it's really resistive and it comes up with some values that are really kind of further off, just because the resistivity higher numbers, it's just gonna be a little more uncertainty in the data, and it'll do those it'll take a few more data points just to like make sure it's getting the right values. And so you can, depending on the ground, it can take longer in general, just because of the ground. And this was very unique ground. It is a very conductive cemetery that I did recently, which is one reason why I just haven't been online. I did some of this work and some other stuff, and I really want to share this kind of work with you guys. But honestly, cemeteries are so hard, like, to look at the data, because there's so like little differences in the resistivity to be able to tell if there's a person buried or not. After I'm done with it, man, I give them the report, or I give them the images or whatever, and tell them about their cemetery. Man, I'm just done with that. I'm done with that project for like a while. And that's why you guys never hear about it, because like I literally can't talk. Like, have you ever worked on something for a long time, you're just so sick of it? Like, it's fun, it's like interesting, but it's like, man, cemeteries are different than when I'm looking for like the expanse of a sinkhole, or the depth to bedrock is used a lot for this, or like I've never gotten a chance to look for a leaking pipe. I did locating a cistern at a farm once. Like, those are like, the contrast and the resistivity are so different. It's like no problem to just tell you like, oh, here's your bedrock depth or something, like, because it's like 2,000 ohm meters different. But with this, it's like I'm looking for 26 ohm meters, like exactly, to be able to tell where the regular ground is compared to like the burials here. And then you got to process it, and then to process this data and make sure you didn't process it in a way that changed those values enough to make it look like it's background or not background, because I'm looking for like literally like between 25 and 27 ohm meters for just the background resistivity here. And I've done this place a few times, and I know what the background I know what the background should look like if there's nobody there. And anyway, cemeteries. So I usually don't talk a lot about what I've done, because I've done a lot of cemeteries lately, and by the end I'm just like blah. Yes, you are the second best assistant, Christina, but I really remember you from the GPR, walking around finding people underneath roads. Mitzi Scott, sending love and prayers to Amber's family. Happy birthday, Amber. Rest in peace, dear one. You're so sweet, Mitzi. I did let Larry know that we were going to be doing this. Oh, I have a message. But I also didn't want him to feel obligated to come by, because I don't know if he'd be feeling up for this or not. I'm sorry. I have to say goodnight to my mom so she knows that I'm okay. um, because if I don't send uh, there we go. Because if I don't send a good night to my mom, then Zach gets text messages making sure I'm okay. I didn't get anything back from Larry. I didn't want him to feel obligated to come by because I don't know how it feels to obviously be in Larry's shoes. I don't know if this is something that he'd be comfortable with or not. So, oh, I've been looking at my ERI image while I've been talking about it. And you guys haven't been. Your sister would say that too. So, yeah, I don't want to skip over Amber right now, because this is her birthday party. I can't really say anything else about Amber's stuff right now, so, I just thought maybe I'd just share with you guys an update on my stuff, and then we can, like, look at some, happy videos, online, and then call it a hurricane night. I don't think anybody here is dealing with the hurricane, but I'm inherently nosy, so I have hurricane stuff on right now. Okay, yes, so I started to ramble because I just started to think about how how I really should be telling you guys about this stuff, but I'm not. Because I just, like, by the end of the project, I'm just like, ugh, so over it. Thanks, Di. Did I point out the big oak tree that I ran my drone into? The first time I ever took my drone up for, like, work was at the same place. And, I was supposed to hear a beep about being too close to things. And, it even, like, stops you really from moving it if you're too close. And I haven't done anything different since then. But the first time I ever took it up, I slammed this thing into the biggest oak tree in the entire cemetery, and that thing came down. But it came down on, like, plush grass right on this grave, and it didn't nothing. It just had, like, a little tiny, like, spot, like, black, like, smudge mark on it. And I don't even think that was from the tree. I think I might have just done it at some other point. So, it got through a pretty big fall. But I get so distracted. Yeah. Di is a great person to work with, and Christina is too. Christina, did you ever do ERI stuff with her, or did we just do GPR stuff together? Anyway, Christina and I found people underneath roads. There's not really anything they can do about it. I wonder how that's going. Anyway, they said they moved people from a cemetery underneath a water tower. Probably didn't do a whole bunch of that. They moved their stones, but then I don't know if it's those people or people that came later at the cemetery that the people were supposed to have gotten moved to. Anyway, a whole bunch of them are underneath the road now. Oh yeah, Texas. How did I forget? Yeah, you did great. Yeah, you were really, really good at being somebody I could rely on when I was under the house with Larry. I'm not saying that Chris wasn't... I don't know how Chris couldn't hear us a couple times when we yelled for him. So I was I felt safer with you being near our little yelling hole. The one time, the first time when we tried to yell out to you guys, and we could hear Chris talking really well, so we thought that you guys should be able to hear us, and nothing was happening. So like we started pounding on the top of the crawl space for the owner. We knew the owner was up there because she put on music, and music through the house into the crawl space. So creepy. No matter what music you're listening to, it's creepy when it gets filtered through that floor into the crawl space. And we were banging on the crawl space because Chris wasn't listening. We couldn't to turn around. We couldn't really turn around and we were on our stomachs, and so we would have had to back out. It would have been an hour just to go out, talk about the thing we needed to talk about, and then go back in. So we banged on and she heard us and came, and I think we all creeped each other out, banging on the crawl space ceiling to get her attention and her music. But yeah, so Chris is great. But yeah, he couldn't hear us. That's the one thing I remember. I remember a lot of "damn it, Chris" from the crawl space. I think you had to be in the crawl space to really appreciate that, though. I still don't know if I was hovering over snake holes or what these holes in the ground were. I put up plastic bags over them because I didn't want, because my knees and my feet would slip into them, and I don't know what lived in there. Thinking about that crawl space, it wasn't as bad bug wise as I thought it was gonna be, because you're always no matter how nice your house is, it was a really nice crawl space. They kept their things well taken care of. It was just that it was still a crawl space in Texas. No matter what, you're gonna get creepy crawlies, even cockroaches and stuff at nice places. And I didn't see them. I didn't look up, but Larry saw them before he put the light on them and scattered. And I guess there were thousands. I only saw one or two, but yeah, Larry's a great person to go into a crawl space with. Christina's great to just rely on in general for anything, and she helped with some other stuff, with other things that I've done for other things, and that was really helpful. Someday I'll be able to tell everybody everything. But the spiders would creep you out. There weren't big, the big brown ones weren't underneath the house. They were in the field. And I went into the field in I had my sandals on or something. Everybody was weirded out by what I was wearing foot wise and shorts wise and stuff, walking into the grass and stuff. But nobody told me not to do that. So yeah, I wasn't creeped out by what I could encounter because I didn't know. So I'm making a lot of hand gestures, but you guys probably aren't able to see them. But how did I forget Texas? Yeah, we did ERI together. I just really remember you from you actually did the GPR stuff really well. Me too, with the walking, because we didn't have the lawnmower kind of thing for the antenna. We had to drag it because I had an antenna from the 80s. It's still GSSI. It's still great equipment. It was just a model that didn't have a set. I guess I would assume that antenna close to like the 500 would have been about the same size. Maybe we could have gotten a little lawnmower thing, but we didn't. We just dragged it. And so you had to walk, like, make sure you walk the right pace, and she did a good job of that. But yes, Di and I cruised through these lines. And I told her, don't let the electrodes jiggle. She didn't go back and make sure they all jiggled like that one guy. And that was key. And I didn't have to explain things to her, because either she just didn't ask, but maybe it's because like she watched my videos before. Yeah. And anyway, so we did this. And oh wait, who's that? There's Di. I do have a picture of her, and that's me. My arms are so big. Or is my head just really small? Now I'm sad. I'm glad I wasn't that sad in the cemetery that day. Yeah, so we did one line, then we did another line, and then we did another line. And so the interesting thing about this one is peering over my microphone here. This area right here, if you can see, like the ground is kind of a little bit different. There's a couple inches of collapsed ground there that they had to fill. And the weird thing about this is all the way like from here and then down, if I continued taking an image of the entire cemetery, like headed that way, that's an old hearse path. And so there really shouldn't be anything there except like maybe a little bit of compacted ground. The thing is that this cemetery has kind of gone through ownership from different. I don't think it was ever religious. I think it was like a. I know before this city got it, it was privately owned, and then before that, I can't remember if it was privately owned or if it was like owned by like the city before that, or like I don't think it was a church. I can't remember. It's gone through a couple different owners, and they know that the guy who had it before them, who had the city had it before them, was a really like, this guy couldn't say no to somebody who like was in need of something. He was a very nice guy. And so if somebody really needed to or wanted to be buried in the cemetery, he'd figure out a way to make it happen. But the records aren't that great. And so, and usually this hearse path from a long time ago would just be like, oh, there's nobody there. But the hearse path should still extend up this way. But we got some more recent burials here from before the city got it. And then here, there's no headstone, but there's a burial there where it collapsed. And so what I'm doing is the city just wants to make sure that the records that they have right now are correct. And then also, just because they want to make sure they know where everybody is. I mean, a very good idea since they acquired this cemetery from a private owner. They want to make sure the records are correct. And then they'll always have those records for anything that needs to be done with, if they want to do landscaping or something, they know if there's somebody there or not, and they can put up markers and things like that. Also, some family plots the family bought these plots, and then maybe somebody moved away, got married, whatever. They're not, one of the family members isn't actually buried there, and so they have like this extra space in a family plot. But since there's so many places where there aren't markers and there are people, like in some cases they bought, like they just want to make sure that this spot where they said that nobody from the family was buried, there's actually nobody from the family buried there. They just want to make sure, because then if somebody from that family wants to be buried in this historic cemetery, there is a spot and their family has already bought it. So they can be buried in the historic cemetery if they want to be, because it's already been bought by the family. And so, but before you dig into the ground in a family plot, you just want to make sure it is free for that person to be buried there. And so that's another thing that's a big deal at that cemetery. And I can tell you that I've already confirmed place for 2 people in a family plot that was bought but not used yet, and it's still not used yet. They are fine, but someday they would like to be buried there, and they will be. So I think that's cool. Yeah, there really shouldn't be anybody on this old hearse path. This should have always been a path, but this really nice guy that couldn't say no, like, we need to bury them somewhere, or like, I'd really like to be near somebody or whatever, he'd figure out a way to make it work. And so people are now buried on the old hearse path, apparently. Records aren't great, if the headstone's not there, let's make sure we got everybody. And, so, one thing is, sorry, I'm slamming my mouse around. I ran out of table space. I discovered something. Well, Di and I discovered something. We did this together. Are you guys still there? Because my chat hasn't moved for a while. Did everybody fall asleep? That's fine. I really feel like I don't have a voice you could fall asleep to, but I mean, if you're really tired, you can fall asleep to basically anything. So I'm talking about line 2. And before I go into the colors of line 2, oh, I just put this over the chat. Now I don't know if anybody's responding. Oh, you're here. You're still awake somehow. Oh, yay, Missy Scott's still here too. I do like this group. Sam and Becca. I bet you guys fell asleep. That's fine. They've heard enough of me in the past. They deserve a nap. So, line 2, the thing about this is you have this area that's already collapsed, and it's along the hearse path. So here's 2 reasons why. I guess there's 3 reasons why. You're still there. You heard me. Well, I figured that you've heard enough of me in the past, Becca, so I mean, you deserve a nap. So a couple of reasons why this may have collapsed. One is Max is reading a book and we're all just chilling. Yay, hi Max. And everybody, Sam. So one reason it could collapse is it's like he went to the bathroom. Should we just pause and wait for Sam to get? No, I'm kidding. One reason it could collapse is that in general, when you have a burial, if um, the over time the ground is just going to compact anyway, because like the fill that they put over a grave is kind of fluffy. It's like not compacted yet. Over time, it's gonna sink as it just like gets settled into the cemetery, into the where you've done the burial. The fill is just going to settle over time, and that will make an impression in the ground anyway. And so that's kind of what it would appear might be the reason why there was a sinking in this area that they needed to fill before. But it wasn't really just a slow sinking over time. They actually had, I think the guy from the city, I think his foot may have gone through a little bit. And so that means there's like a really hard soil. And then there's nothing underneath it. So you could still have a really hard soil on top, and then still that settling underneath. If you've just had, you can have different kinds of soils on top. It's called loess. Loess can travel, loess is like a dusty, dirty, sandy dirt. It's like a dusting that goes into your soil. In a way, like loess is a certain type of soil that I've worked with before, and and if you could just get like a clay kind of sandy something on top, you can like make that maybe like your soil. If you've had different weather conditions from the past, you're gonna have a compacted surface soil, and maybe that like just kind of acts like a hard cap on this. And as but I feel like that would have taken more time than just like the how many ever years it would have been since they got buried in the cemetery. Probably would have taken longer to make like a really hard soil on top like that. I'm not really sure, because there's not like a lot of erosion on the surface here. It doesn't really seem like it would just be like a sinking problem, is what I'm saying. Like as soon as you disturb where the hearse path was, which would be compacted over time from like the horses and stuff, once you disturb that, you don't really have that right over the burial. You don't really have that hard soil anymore. So that wouldn't have been what he felt like, what his foot went through. So what else could cause like a collapse in a cemetery? And oh, hi Copper Horse. She's still here. So I don't know if any of that made sense. Like just like a soil over just like maybe half a century, whatever. Like I don't know if a soil could be like a soil on the surface could really be made into something that could really become so hard that what would be the fill that would have been filled before that was made would be sinking and settling, and then like you have this hard soil on top. I don't think that's possible in this case. So one thing is what the casket is made out of could deteriorate like wood, and as that deteriorates and collapses, then you got like a hole that started there, and then that'll just collapse everything on top, and you'll go down as far as, you know, the displacement of you into the ground would be the displacement of the ground above the casket down into the casket. And so that seems pretty likely here. And then also add on top of just the displacement into the casket, you've also got the compaction that's probably happened over time too. And so you're talking you could end up going down a couple feet into the ground probably. And so, but I'm also wondering if it is to do with the hearse path, and I'm not sure how that the fill and the old hearse path would really work, like where a burial happened, there must be some sort of, the hearse path must be doing something it must be controlling the movement of water, and basically the movement of water in the cemetery. The hearse path is doing something to the ground. And is it doing something that would be causing something like this, or is it just kind of is a hearse path just like a component of the cemetery, and it's like it is harder ground because of the compaction over time from the horses and stuff, but it's not really doing anything. But I think, like, so now it's kind of like, it kind of looks like this path is collapsing in places where the hearse path is collapsing in places where they did not dig into the ground for the burials, but is adjacent to that. So it still has that compacted ground from the heavy horses over it, and it was never like dug into and changed. It like in an area near these burials, it's still compacted. And so I'm wondering if just the movement of water with the soil, this is very wet soil underneath it, is the water over time moving the ground, washing out the soil in some places. The compaction is happening from just over time, from the compaction of the fill, the compaction maybe from the burials, and so you're getting like a space between the compaction of the fill and the burial. You're getting a void because you still have this layer of I'm doing so many hand gestures, and you guys are missing all the good ones here. Your compacted layer from the hearse path is not collapsing because it's kind of compacted. It's kind of cemented together a little bit, and so it's just stronger over time than that wet ground underneath that is compacting, could be just washing out. And but one thing I was also worried about was it was really, really conductive in one place, and it's even more conductive than fresh water, which makes sense because unfortunately a cemetery the ground is pretty polluted. It's pretty contaminated. In a harsher way of saying it, it's a dump. Like literally, like this is like where like instead of trash, it's people. Like that's harsh, but like we tried I tried to come up with a nice way of saying that out when I was working with the one guy from the city, and he's just like, I mean, yeah, like these are people, and like I respect people in the cemetery, but in general, cemeteries, the ground is, whew, and so it's going to have a lot of like best way of saying it, it's going to have a lot of contaminants. That's basically what I'm getting around. Is I'm not calling the people contaminants, I'm calling the decomposition contaminants. And that's a good way of saying it without sounding too harsh. So it's going to be not fresh water. It's going to be even more conductive than salt water because it does have the decomposition in it of everybody in the cemetery. And so it's going to be very, very conductive. Because pollutants, contaminants usually are very conductive. Like, I guess there's no nice way to put this. Like, if you do a septic plume, like a septic tank, the plume around it, if it's like leaking, it's very, very conductive because of the I had a nice way of saying this. I can't think of the word I want to use. It's not minerals. It's not ions. There's a word I want to use. There's the charges in the ground. Yeah, and so that's what you're just gonna, in a cemetery, it's gonna be very conductive if you have a bunch of water because it just collects. And so I saw very, 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 like the most conductive stuff I've seen. And I was worried, like, if I went somewhere and somebody asked me about looking for a leaking pipe in the ground, I would have said I found it. But I'm not looking for a leaking pipe in the ground. But nobody's burial is going to be this conductive. Always it'd just be like somebody's metal casket just sitting in water, maybe. It'd be that conductive. If like, metal casket's just filled with decomposition and water. Yeah. But probably not that in that location. So I let the guy from the city know, like, the ground is really conductive in the cemetery, but this is very, very conductive. And it does, I can't tell you for sure if there's a leaking pipe. But if I went somewhere looking for a leaking pipe, I'd say I found a leaking pipe. But I don't know, I can't tell you 100% that that is what this is, because, like, could be a leaking pipe because it has the signature of it. But it also has the signature of maybe that it could be a burial that's just really, really wet. Or it could, like, be, like, I don't know where the water is coming from. It could just be because it rained really heavy, like 2 days before, and this ground just isn't moving it. So I let him know. And there is a water pipe nearby over on that end of the line. And so they just turned the water off just to be sure. Which was really cool that people believe in what I say enough to do something like that, to follow through with, they heard something from me, and so they're gonna make sure that, like, they really care about the cemetery. The guy I've worked with at the cemetery and the people I've met from the city, everybody cares very much about making sure this is done right for the people that are buried there and for the families of those people. Still, a lot of those families are in town, so it's been a good experience in that regard because they take these things very seriously. So here's the thing that you're gonna see from that. In general, am I going on too long about this? Because I just thought this was very interesting. That Di and I found this. Because I set out to look for people. There are people over here. It's just the color scale right now just isn't showing it. Because the thing is, like I said, and if you guys want me to repeat something or skip through something, because I just keep going on and on, just let me know. Curious, would a person who's had a lot of MRIs or radiation be easier to detect with your equipment in their bone? I don't think they would be, because I think that amount, although it affected the person, like the equipment and the thing, because I had stuff injected before I went into the MRI and stuff like that. Anything like that, like, either by the time that they would be buried would be so minute that I don't think my equipment would be able to pick up a difference that small. I think that really comes down to it. If there's still something from a medical procedure like that on the person, I don't think that my equipment has the resolution to see that any better. But that is a good question, because I don't really know what the effects of MRIs or radiation treatment would be. I don't know what the effects would be on the person, and if that would, how much that would change somebody. But I feel like because I feel like that the difference for that on, like, you've got me thinking about this, but I don't think my equipment would have the resolution for that. I think that would come up to, in general, although impactful for the a person's body, I don't think it would be, it would end up showing up with the resolution to see it with my stuff. I do know that a lead casket shows up very, very strongly on here. So that's like the only kind of the different composition of things that like shows up clear. But I think especially if it's a person inside a casket, I don't think my equipment would be able to see anything but the casket itself and nothing that would be within the person. But I don't know how long that kind of stuff would stay in your system, and once decomposition starts, like what that would release into the environment. So that's actually a very good question. It really makes me think. I think I'll glow in the dark. Well, that would really help. In a century when they're going through an old cemetery, why is the ground glowing there? Like that would be very helpful, but I hope you're okay. I hope you're doing all right, feeling good. But yeah, that is a good question because I don't know what the changes to the human body would be, and then once like a decomposition situation sets in, what would come about outside the casket, and then, but by the time that I would get to that stage where it would be visible through like the probably the resistive nature of newer burials, because newer burials have vaults and caskets, and so they're really resistive. Like in order to like be seen in a way that the resolution, it would be high enough, like the difference would be high enough to see in the resolution. I'm not really sure. That's a good question. It really makes you think. Like, it's a really good thought experiment. Like, what would the conditions of the burial itself with like a vault and a casket and the type of ground? What would be needed in order? Like, would there be a condition that would allow that to be seen? That's interesting. But yeah, and so with with this, I just happen to have an issue with getting this second line even like be read by my software in order to process it. So what my software does is I take individual points along the line, like let's say you send a current into the ground through 0 and 1, because you have to like complete the circuits. So you send it through 0 and 1, and then the receiving current that you look at for the resistance is 2 and 3. So your data point would actually lie like right here. Between these two would lie like right here. And then the next point would be 0, 1, and 3 and 4. So it would go like, 0, 1, and then the receiving would be 2 and 3, and then it moves over for the next point. It'd be 1 and 2 would send it, and 3 and 4 would receive it. And so that data point would be there. So your first data point is here, and then here. And where was I going with that? Wait, there was a point to that. Why did I zoom in? Anyway, I get really distracted. So all these data points. Why was I mentioning that? Somebody help me out here. Anyway. so here, I collected the data near where this collapse happened. So getting back on track, collapse happened here. We did a line through here. It looks fine. It looks really well. It looks actually filled really well. They did a good job. I just don't have that one ready to show you. I didn't even think about showing you the one where they filled it. But going over next to it, like this area they filled is not all the way up there. It's like, it just goes to like right here. It's just like right here. And so, I had a hard time, oh yes, this is it. I had a hard time getting this into my software. Because my software looks at, yep, I found it. I found what I was saying. My software looks at these individual data points that I mentioned. It's sent into the ground. It takes an individual data point. It says that between, like, I'm trying to think of the way I send it into the ground. If it's 0 and 1, and then 2 and 3, and then it would be 0 and 1, and 3 and 4, and 0 and 1, and 5 and 6, 0, 1, 6, 7. I think it's like that. And so as you space out which electrodes are receiving the altered current for the resistance and for the resistance of the ground information, as you spread it out, you're getting data that's deeper. And so 0 and 1 sends, 2 and 3 receives the altered current for the resistance measurement. That's really close to the ground. 0 and 1 and sends, and 5 and 6 receives. That's going to be deeper, because if you saw my explanations of this with like the beach ball, like as the current goes out, it spreads out like half a beach ball in the ground. It's going through deeper parts of the ground then, because it's arcing instead of like going straight across. And so you get deeper information. So all these different data points are just resistance values that it's saying, well, if we sent it through this ground, it came out with this resistance. If we sent it through the ground in this other way with these other electrodes, it was this resistance. But you will, because of how we sent it to the ground, like if you sent it through 2 and 3 and received through 4 and 5, and then you sent it with 2 and 3 and received it with 5 and 6, you still went through some of the ground that you did with 4 and 5 when you collected the resistance with 5 and 6. You still, like, some of that same ground is impacted by that current that you sent for both of them. And so it goes, well, if we have all these different data points, and we know that we can use some of this information not only for one specific point in our line, but we can say that also gives us information about other parts of the line too. Like, if the resistance of this one point in the data is this, what does that mean about the ground around it? Because it's not just, we didn't just collect information once. We collected, there's a lot of information from running the current through the data and through the same part of the ground in different ways. So it says, in order to get that value there, what does the ground have to look like? And that's how you get the resistivity. It goes through point by point, like their nodes. It's a modeling. It's a forward modeling technique. I did inverse modeling for my. No, it's inversion, so it's inverse modeling. I did inverse modeling and forward modeling for my grad work, and sometimes I get them just the name confused. So inverse modeling means we have this value. We have this resistivity value. Now, what does that mean about the ground around it? Like, we have the result. So what did it take to get that result? What did the ground have to look like in order to get that result? And so we can use all these data points to just build up a really good image of the ground. If that makes sense. So the resolution of my lines is, I need to actually cut this off. There's actually no data in the corners because just how the curve of the current kind of thing, there's no information in the corners. But you get the current traveled less through the stuff on the ends than in the middle. The current actually traveled through here a lot, and so it's really good resolution right in the middle because you just had a lot of passes through there for different data points. So it just says, well, in order to get these data points, what did the ground have to look like? And so that's what an inverse model is. And so when I say an inversion image or inversion result in ERI, it just means the final image. It says what I collected, those points I collected, what did the ground have to look like in order to get those points? And so that's what we're looking at. But nothing is easy. Nothing is ever easy. Everything is hard. And I've never ran into conductivity values so low before. And I've ran into so when I say conductivity, it's the same as resistivity, except it's the inverse. So resistivity equals 1 over conductivity. So it really means when I'm saying something's really resistive, it's got low conductivity. When I'm saying that something is really conductive, it's got high resistivity. Wait. When something is conductive, it is not resistive. When something is resistive, it is not conductive. Geez, I hope that makes sense to you guys. So really conductive things is water and contaminants. Electricity goes through them really well. Not conductive things would be resistive, like dry sand. If there's airspace, ERI boils down to if something is voidy, like it has a lot of space between like sand grains, between the grains of the sediment or soil, there's a lot of airspace, it's resistive, it's dry. But if that airspace is not space but it's filled with water, if that space is not air and it's filled with water instead, then it's really conductive. Because current does not go through air. So when you have something that's got a lot of void, you have a lot of air, and there's just a lot of space between the grains. Even if it doesn't look like it, it can still be. And with all that, and so when you send a current through something that has a lot of air in it, a lot of space between the grains, there's not a lot of places the current can connect, like to go through, because it can't go through the air. But if you fill that space with water instead, then the current can jump through it really quick through the water. And so that's why it's conductive. And so I interchange resistivity and conductivity a lot because really ERI has to do with water content. If it's got a lot of water in it, it's really conductive. So the resistivity is low. And then, so here, the resistivity in ohm meters is, the resistivity is really low in the blue stuff, which means it's really conductive. If the resistivity is really low, it's really conductive. The resistivity is low, so that means there's a lot of water filling the air, what would have been airspace. There's a lot of water, it's wet, it's conductive. It's low resistivity, it's conductive, it's wet. Why is it wet? Why is it wet? Why is it wet? Why is it like that? And such low values. Okay, so that's kind of a reenactment of when I couldn't even get this line to initially run through my software to get this image. I could not get this inversion image to tell me what the ground looks like because those initial resistivity values that I got were so low, and then the resistance values were so low. The resistance values were so low going in to do the inversion modeling, and then those values end up being really wicked low too. And but I had such low values initially trying to run it in my software that it gave me an error, and so I had to do my own thing to. I've written a couple different programs in order to like see my data differently, and in this case, in order just to see it at all. And so I took out, I had to just take out one value because it was seeing it at 0, which I've never seen before. And I've done this for, I started in 2013 with the ERI equipment. I've been doing this a while, never seen this. So, fun. Fun. It's fun. It's fun, you guys. So, so eventually I did get this in it. Still, the lowest values you're gonna see. 0.028 ohm meters. You know, like, what? So, really wet. And then we got much higher. We got, it ends up being over 1,500. This looks like a sinkhole. This looks like a sinkhole. Sinkholes, in general, which I've done, are where it initially starts out with ground that becomes less competent. It becomes deteriorated. It starts to weather in some way. Usually gets really wet, or it's deteriorated in some way and water comes in and washes it out. So water is involved in that. Makes it pretty conductive. Once the water is there, it becomes really, really high resistivity, because once you wash out the material and the water's gone, it's just a void with air. So then that's really resistive. And then everything that wasn't washed out because it was kind of the compacted soil on top, then that'll collapse. And that's how you get a sinkhole. You can get urban sinkholes when you have leaks in water pipes. Like whenever you see an urban sinkhole on the news about, well, except for the one with the mine in Illinois, that's insane. Have you guys seen a video of that where like the soccer field just collapses? Because that just happened. Did you guys see that? Usually when you see like a car going into the street, it's because there's a pipe underneath it, and either the pipe itself is leaking and washing all the material that's underneath the road away, and then the road is on top, and it's sitting there, and then a heavy truck or car or something drives over it, and there's nothing underneath anymore because the water washed it away. Now there's nothing under there because the water's gone, the material's gone, it's just the road on top, and then the car drives and then it collapses because there's nothing underneath. So it can look like that. The resistivity also is a high resistivity like that. It's really voidy. It's really dry. There's no water in it. It's just really dry. It's a cap maybe that's really dry, and it's got really wet underneath it that will wash away, or it's just like pooled water that you'll eventually fall into. Anyway, there's usually the thing about sinkholes is it's either a very, very wet thing from the water that will wash out and then make that void in the ground that you'll fall into. Or it's just a really resistive thing that you'll fall into because it's just air. And so I saw this, and the ground on top of it, I'm thinking some of that has already started collapsing into the area that is wet and getting washed out, and you're just slowly making a type of sinkhole here. Or the ground on top is draining really well and drying out really well, and it's just being, I don't know. I don't exactly know why it's super wet there and super dry there. There's a couple different reasons for it. It's voidy. There's much less water, lots of air. It's really dry in the red purple. It's really wet in the blue green. And then on top here, yikes. So you haven't seen that? Oh, the video? Yeah, I'll show it to you guys then. This is yikes. So also what could be happening here is I don't get the first 0.075 meters ish of ground. There's just no resolution there. Like where you stick the electrode into the ground, like there's a little bit of space before you get that first data point. So you you can tell like there's like this little bit right here that we just don't see. That is definitely could be part of that's definitely part of like the soil surface. The resolution, just isn't there to be able to see that. So sometimes whatever color scale you're using might not be clear enough, or color map, or I usually, in this case, it was scary enough that I ended up using one of my programs to image with each individual data point value so I could look at what the value was at each location instead of just relying on colors in a picture. But you can see there's like not as resistive, so wetter something there. So classic sinkhole with the topsoil still there. Topsoil's still there. And we got ourselves something really resistive right underneath the soil surface. Something really resistive right underneath the soil surface. Soil surface probably still there in like the wetter, like in a more conductive way. Soil surface still there, and then underneath super wet. So I'm still like thinking about this because like this is like something that like I still have to get my final thoughts about this together for them. So if you still have a soil surface right underneath, it's really, really, really super, super duper resistive. That means it's really voidy, so it's got a lot of air. So it could be a full collapse. Could be just super, really, really dry material that it would crumble anyway, so you might as well be collapsed. Probably a collapse. Underneath it is still some of that material that's really, really wet that will be washed out. So eventually, so I didn't realize that you can like actually see the soil surface is still there really clear. Then you got that void. Then you got this really wet stuff underneath the void that will probably get washed out, and it'll eventually look like resistive like this. So eventually, when the really wet stuff underneath, this is the same location, it's just shown in different colors. So I'm talking about the same place, but I'm going between these two images. It's the same spot on the ground. It's just shown in different colors. This really wet spot will eventually be really dry like this. It'll get washed out, and then it'll just be air, and then it'll be really resistive like this. And then I totally forgot that you can see up here, there is soil on top. So that's when somebody walks along in the cemetery, bloop, 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 walking, 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 walking. And when they get to the spot, there's going to be there's going to be such a void underneath that the soil on top is just going to collapse. And so you'll go down into the ground in the cemetery. And you'll go, ah! I recently went somewhere that you guys will be able to hear this story eventually. This is a good story. I can't tell you guys anything. I literally will have something for you guys at the beginning of next year that I can tell you that is awesome. But I have so many good stories that I'll eventually be able to tell you guys. And one of them is, I was very nervous about it. There was a place that there was a lot of this going on that I went. Not the cemetery. There was a place that I went. And there was a very huge risk of falling. Yeah, so glad it didn't happen to one of us. Yeah, when I went out to talk to him about it the other day, and we were standing there, and he's like, just like, I could fall through the ground. Like, because he brought like a little tiny poker thing just to see if it was really like a void there, and it was. And he's like, I could fall through the ground right now. Just like we were like walking all over that the other day. Yeah, and so I don't know if any of this made sense to you guys. I was kind of putting my thoughts together as I talked to you, so thank you. Because I still have to like finish my thoughts. It's a lot of surprise that I wasn't expecting to have to explain. But they've been really great about it. And then there's just issues with I just pointed out prime for a void because like if you remember in general, my background that I look for is about 25, 27 ohm meters. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different. You're not going to be like that precise, but usually it is like that. So I've really lucked out in that regard, that the background resistivity has been like almost down to the ohm meter, which is like pretty cool. But so now we're going to look at so areas that would be things like prime for deterioration and prime for a void. I had different definitions because what we're seeing in this area would be things like same idea with the really resistive stuff on top, and then and right below it is getting lower than what's normally seen there, which is exactly what we see in an area that we already know is an extension of a collapse that they've had. But it's like even deeper than, like they filled with collapse, but they didn't go in, and now they're going to go in and make sure, I don't know how they're going to do this. They're going to make sure this is filled correctly so nobody gets hurt, because they don't want anybody to get hurt. And they just don't want in some way to disrespect the burials that are there. And so I'm also seeing, so we're seeing the same look here. And this is, this is a burial. So this is a person here. And it's more resistive. Usually what I look for is a resistive fill because of the compaction over time, and then And usually that's all I expect to see. Here I've been finding there have been dry barrel dry caskets, like lots of void, a lot of void in it. It just drained well after rain, and it's probably a wood casket thing, so it's going to be more resistive. So you're probably going to get a little bit of collapse there. So I'm just saying, it's prime. This thing's probably ready to give you a void, and like this entire section, 12 meters along the line to like 13 and a half, 14. Yeah, definitely. You guys should watch out for that. Christina's leaving. I have to head out for the night. I had an early morning and now I have faith at. She did have an early morning. She had a lot of driving, and so good night. It would make a great video. Is AFV America's Funniest Home Video? Is that what that is? I will definitely end up probably sticking my foot through the ground at some point in my life. I mean, I've already walked on some really sketchy places in some of these cemeteries, like the really big dips in the ground where it's really like I mean, that's probably already collapsed as far as it could go, kind of thing. Boo. So, is America's Funniest Home Video still around? No, we're not gonna enter. No matter what hilarious thing happens with whatever amount of my feet and legs go through the ground at any point in the future, you should definitely video it, but for my channel, not for America's Funniest Home Videos. But yeah, so I just found along this area that this one spot for sure is between, yeah, so they're like between 13 meters along the line and 16 meters, 13 along the line and 16. So this area is where they already filled nearby, but they need to really make sure they don't go through up here too. Like, so it extends out. The collapse that they've already had extends out further. And then I think that there's a little bit more that might be happening at some time soon, and then there's a little bit more that could happen in the future, because I'm already seeing it there, and it looks like there's probably a barrel right there. 18 and a half, 19. That doesn't have a headstone. So, and that. Yeah. So everything behind this, the Civil War vet. So. That was just an interesting thing, and I didn't tell you guys where I was. Well, I asked him in the past if I could put it on my channel. He said that was fine. I just gotta take. I told him that. Oh, I zoomed in and there is a name. As soon as I was saying, I told him like I just make sure that you couldn't see any names or anything, and then right when I was gonna say that, I zoomed in on a name. Okay. But they're great. So like even if everybody knew that this was a cemetery, I did this on. I mean, the city's been doing a great job ever since they got it. So they shouldn't feel weird about that, and I don't think they would. They're great. And they said I could talk to you guys about it, and I just told them that I wouldn't share any names or anything. Because, you know, run it by the family first kind of thing is what I'm thinking. Yeah. So, Diane and I did that. That was surprising. I don't have my images quite finalized yet for, like, where all the burials are, kind of thing. So you can kind of just see, like, I gotta finish putting the head, like, I got all the headstone names and stuff, so I gotta take that out for you guys. So I got all the headstones and everything. I haven't made the final image yet because I haven't gotten to it since I had the meeting out there. I gotta do that tomorrow. So I'll have it for you guys. Maybe I can even put it in the community notes or the community thing. I can show you guys the final image in there. We'll have that done tomorrow. But the thing's been crazy. I could imagine you guys like in dirt holes hysterically laughing. Dude, if Di's foot went through the ground and she was like if it just looks like I don't know how to say it. It's like if it's like all of a sudden she was walking and then like she just didn't have her feet anymore because they were underground. I would laugh. Soil shoes, like, and then I'd be like, I'm not coming near you. I'm not going down too. I think they might have to do a little bit more to fix it than usually with sinkholes in general. There's like a remediation kind of thing that you have to do, but they're not going to be able to do that. Because that, like, with the sinkholes, you would dig out all the unstable ground, all the deteriorated the stuff that's not competent ground anymore. That would all get dug out, and then they fill it with I think they put some sort of cement thing on it. Like they put cement in it, and then I know that the big like cement blocks have gone into some of them. Then after that, and then you fill it with stuff. Like there's remediation is not just a lot of work, but it's a lot of money too. Oh, I just looked up at hurricane stuff. Holy moly, is it a 5 yet? I got distracted. So they're not obviously going to dig out a cemetery sinkhole area. They're just going to start scooping it out and just filling it with cement. Because that would be really disrespectful. So I don't know if there is a protocol for that. I'm sure there is. And I'm sure it has something to do with they will have to probably as long as they can image, as long as I've imaged it, we know the extent of it, we know the depth of it. We don't have to do like an exploratory kind of dig out thing. So you do know the extent of it. So you could probably just collapse the stuff that's going to collapse, and then I don't know if you'd have to dig that out. The stuff that would collapse. As long as it's not a burial, you might want to dig that out, and then put, I don't know what kind of fill you'd use in the cemetery. Unless you just collapse it like prematurely and then fill. Because the fill they did already looks great in my data, so unless just over time they just like put something up around there so people don't walk and like fall in. And you just like kind of let it naturally collapse. You just slowly put fill on top and let it sink in. I don't know. But I'm sure there's like an actual way to do it that is nothing like anything I just said. As long as there's not a skeleton hand grabbing my ankle. Did I tell you guys about the time Dad and I did an old cemetery? Speaking of skeleton. I think I just told Dad about it. It was funny. Looking back on it, it was funny. Because like, so one of my things I like to do is like the little metal flags, the marker flags. Even if I'm not doing URI somewhere, at the old cemeteries, I like to just kind of poke them into the ground lightly to find old headstones. Like when you hit a headstone, like when you hit something hard just below the surface of the ground, like just like teeny bit below the surface of the ground, and you poke it, and then you can like pull back the dirt or like the grass, like if it's like right below the surface and there's the headstone. It's really neat to find headstones in old cemeteries that have just been buried by like just a small, like I'm not digging in cemeteries. I'm just poking it lightly with a little metal flag. So when I was running a line at this one cemetery, and my dad was helping me. I totally forgot my dad was an assistant. He did really good too. He did do really well. He had to go to the bathroom, and there were trees, like right in the middle of nowhere, and there were trees off in the, like just off in the distance, and he I've never seen my dad climb under barbed wire before, but he needed to pee, and he wasn't gonna pee in a cemetery. That was a good time. Like weird things like that are what give you the good memories. Anyway, so back to this poking the flag into the ground at that cemetery when my dad was helping me. We thought we found a headstone. One of the things about the cemetery is that there was a lot of slumping of the ground. The retaining wall had collapsed, and a good portion of the cemetery had started falling into the field next to it. So people were not as dug deep as they had been. But there's like this one side of the cemetery, it's a very old cemetery, very old. One side of the cemetery that wasn't collapsed and stuff, we were poking for headstones in this one area that like was just on the edge of this. So probably, yes, over time, now that I think about it, probably has had some of the surface washed down where this other part of the cemetery had started collapsing into this field. Anyway, we were poking for old headstones. We found like old headstones. So we like in the line where the headstones should be. We thought we found another headstone, and we just kept going. What is like? I kept saying like we kept saying what is that back and forth. Like I was like what is that, and my dad's like what is that, and like we just kept saying it differently. And I was like what is that, and like, cause like my dad, like we thought it was a headstone, and then my dad, and then like we covered it up after like saying like what is that like 4 times or whatever, and my dad was very particular. He thought it was like the neck bone of somebody like right by their like that connects to their head area. He said that to me, and like I accepted this. I'm not sure. It could have been a rock. It could have been something. We did not go in after that to find out what that was. It could have been a headstone. Could have been a bone. Could have been a rock. Could have been a lot of things. Because we were like literally only like we were at the surface of the ground. We're not like digging in cemeteries. We're just like brushing dirt away for the headstones. And my dad like tells me this particular bone in the neck, and like so we like I think it's a whatever, and he's like, and like but like afterwards I'm just thinking to myself, why does my dad know what that bone looks like? My dad worked at an auto shop that did the electrical systems of anything with a starter and an alternator, like antique tractors and cars and trucks and buses. Like my dad is not a doctor. Why did I so like? I was like, oh, my dad totally understands what this bone in the neck looks like. Like he did. That's what he said. He thought it looked like that bone, and that was that. But that's probably because it was also like where a head would have been. Probably. I don't know. It's where a headstone should have been. But like that's close to where it could have been a headstone. It's still up in the air if it was a headstone, a rock, or this very specific bone that my auto shop father knew what it was. And that was like the best part of that story was, why did he know that? I've lost like 5 viewers. I've lost half my viewers and then they're telling that story. Anyway. Yeah. I can't remember what I started. Oh, skeleton, hand, cemetery. That's it. Hey, when does food stop delivering?
Oh, you want to order that?
Yeah, we should order that before they stop delivering. We haven't had dinner yet. And I just have a feeling it might.
The usual?
Yes, please. Yeah, we're gonna order dinner. So I'm gonna have to get going. But, circling back, we're gonna circle back. What are some other words that they use at businesses besides circle back? What does Amazon use?
Align.
Oh.
Align on this.
Oh, you got a line on it?
Yeah.
Blah. Read this. If I click on that, am I gonna lose my email to a phishing attempt? Your comment was too long. You can always just put something and then a ... and then keep going. So as soon as it starts to get long, as soon as it starts to get a little long and you still got more, just put a ... and I'll know that you're coming back with more. I'm clicking on whatever Di just sent me. Am I ready to leave YouTube? Yes, I am ready to leave YouTube. Well, at least 5 people left my YouTube, so yeah, I'll go too. Why not? Where am I going? Where are you sending me? Not spam. This link is outside. Where am I going to? Yeah, sure, why not? Oh, cemetery sinkholder, growing concern. Yep. Okay. So this is exactly why I let them know about this, and this is exactly why they're... Well, besides that, you're a senator at heart too. Yay. That's fun. It's fun to have, I love having a small group. Good questions. Great. You guys are so nice. I wish everyone that went into and chatted during live streams were like you guys. But I know it's not real. That's not how the real world works. It's just you guys. Yes. So sinkholes are a growing concern. What does sued for $5 million? That sounds like New York. That sounds like California. A New York woman is suing Long Island St. Charles Resurrection Cemetery after a traumatic visit to her parents' grave. Oh my God. How does the rest of the story go? Do I want to read it? Oh my God. That resulted in a cracked tooth and recurring nightmares. I don't have to read the rest of the story and I can still understand why she'd have recurring nightmares. Joanne Cullen of North Belmore, Long Island, is now seeking $5 million. Okay, so it's not $5 million. Anyway, from the cemetery's operator, citing extreme emotional distress and trauma. When did they publish this? I think I read this, and I think the last time I got focused on the 2 M's. I think I might have read this. Did I? Or have I just heard a lot of horror stories like this? She was bending down at her parents' headstone to adjust her wreath when a sinkhole opened beneath her. Oh my God. That shouldn't be happening at that. Her sinkhole shouldn't be happening at cemeteries with that amount of time. I assume that her parents wouldn't have been gone that long, right? When a sinkhole opened beneath her, swallowing her up to her hips in soft soil. As she fell, she hit her head on the gravestone and cracked a tooth while trying to steady herself. Terrifying and traumatizing event occurred at dusk, and no one was around to hear her calls for help. Sue claims that after the horrific event, she has suffered recurring nightmares, requires counseling, and can no longer bring herself to visit the cemetery. I want to make sure the cemetery employees learn from this. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to... Okay, I know, I did not read this actually. Oh my God. No, there is no way that is normal. When it starts out with cemetery sinkholes are a growing concern, that's not a cemetery sinkhole. That's an effed up thing by somebody. who did something super wrong. Like when you drop somebody in and they fill, would there be the possibility that like around the outside of like where the actual hole is and the coffin goes in, perhaps there was a space that didn't get filled all in some way underneath, and then like that just collapsed? And there is no way that that's a normal sinkhole. Cemetery sinkholes are not like that. Cemetery sinkholes, first of all, should not even be happening anymore, really, except for when the fill settles. When fill settles, you'll get subsidence. You'll get subsidence, however you want to pronounce it. You'll get, like, it will subside a little bit. And then you just fill it in. A cemetery that's regularly taken care of, they'll just add some extra fill when it starts to sink and nothing's wrong. But when you actually like go through the ground, that's like old cemeteries. That's like wooden casket collapses like down into the person, and the fill on top collapses down. And in some cases, when nobody's come along to fill the fill that's like already subsided, you can get a really sizable collapse from this, and like depression from this. That should not be a recurring problem at cemeteries, because that's not how a cemetery sinkhole. Cemetery sinkholes are really a result of the older caskets. Yeah, it's really a result of the wooden casket. Zach almost fell in a lot of different places just now. Scary how many sinkholes are happening. Yeah, I don't know why you would sink this far. Up to her hips? I'm picturing like a regular sized person too. I guess could see a child in a regular setting like sinking down to like their belly buttons or something. But that would be from like a wooden casket. Hi, Dainty Lioness. It's great to see you. We just ordered our food because we haven't had dinner yet, so we're going to be on for a few more minutes. So I'll make sure to stay on for a few more minutes until our food arrives. Then I'll have to head out. But Di just sent me this. And this is not like a cemetery sinkhole. This is not like a cemetery sinkhole problem situation. This is like something else happened. And maybe the cemetery should be sued. Like in general, a collapse only happens when we're really, really old. And I can't imagine that her parents were like, from whenever they stopped doing, I know vaults were really a thing vaults are not as old of a thing as I thought they were. But in fact, the area that I live right now is like the first place in the United States that actually had cemetery vaults. Because the guy, I think he was from Europe, or he knew about it from Europe, who started it in the United States, lived in this area. And that, like, vaults didn't really become popular until like the 1950s and stuff. And so like, I can see how you can have deterioration. Anybody that was buried like 1950 or before, maybe. But I can't imagine this woman. I don't know her age. Wait, it says. I'm looking around my microphone right now. 1992 and 1995. Good Lord, look at that. 1992 and 1995, you shouldn't be collapsing things. Like there would be a subsidence on top. There would be like a collapse of like slowly over time your fill would start to compress, and then you just gotta add more fill. But it's not like creating a hole you would fall into, it's just compressing. So you're like technically getting closer to the person, but the amount of ground between you and the person that's buried is still the same, it's just compacted. In this case, this is something else that happened. Let's read on, because what is this? Okay. We have a cemetery in my hometown that dates back to early 1600s. Fascinating. Ooh, I wonder if any of my people are buried there. I have ancestors that I found out on Ancestry.com that are buried in, wait, 1600s. Wait. I thought you were from Iowa. And I think that's okay to say, because you said it in the chat. If not, I'll go back and take that out. Wait, 1600s? Wait. Because New England, I have people buried in New England cemetery, like the old historic cemeteries in New England, I have people buried there. That'd be cool if I had, like, ancestors buried in here. Oh, hometown, not current town. I'm not going to focus on that. I'll just wait until you answer. New Jersey. Oh, I don't... Wait, was New Jersey... Silly question. Was New Jersey part of a different state for a while? How long has New Jersey been a state? Because now that I think about it, when I look at, like, old maps, I can't remember when New Jersey became a state that got put on old maps. That's going to be, like, the silliest thing I'm going to ever say to you guys. But I can't remember when New Jersey started showing up on maps. I look at old maps. If you guys have ever been to raremaps.com, I love that place. I got maps from raremaps.com. Barry Lawrence, raremaps.com. Sponsor me. That'd be awesome, in fact. Actually, if everybody just wants to email Barry Lawrence at raremaps.com and say, you should really sponsor her, that'd be awesome. He's got old maps. He's got Civil War maps. He's got old New England maps. He's got more contemporary maps. Anyway, I got distracted. Because I can't remember when New Jersey shows up on these old maps I look at. Anyway, I need to keep reading this. Because what even happened here? Miss Cole's lawyer, Joseph Perini, believes the sinkhole occurred due to an underground void left by the workers backfilling an adjacent gravesite. I said there was going to be a void from filling a grave. I didn't realize an adjacent gravesite. Backfilling energy. Who was... Okay, so we have 1993 next door. And we have 2014. Yeah, and all the stuff collapses down into that. That's not a normal problem, though. Well, it shouldn't be a normal problem. It's not anything I've ever heard of. So don't be terrified of that situation, because I've never heard of this before. You should be terrified of older cemeteries where you could definitely fall in. I have a story that I, like, literally NDA can't tell you guys about right now. But I'll be able to tell you guys about it at some point. And you are gonna love it. But, yeah, I've never heard anything like this before. Sinkholes occur when rainwater, accumulates above an underground cavity or loose soil, causing the earth compacting under the weight. What? That's not. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that definition. I'm not gonna read the rest of that because I haven't eaten yet, and that's a lot of things that I want to talk about. So I can always talk about more of that later. Underground cavities are caused by lots of different ways you can get it, but it's really from washing out earth underneath in the ground, and then it's not about compaction and sinking. If there's water that accumulates, it would then wash out things underneath it, and that topsoil that's held together by roots of things. It's really because it's held together by roots and things. It can be additionally compacted by walking or whatever. But one main reason you get the sinkhole that you fall into is because like the ground on the surface is held together with grass and stuff, and then everything under it was washed away. So it's not compacting and sinking under the weight. That's wrong. I see it in a lot of places that sinkhole discussions are wrong. I mean, that could be a thing. That is one way to collapse the ground, is put a lot of heavy water on it. There's a lot wrong. Okay. I can't get distracted by that. I haven't eaten dinner yet. But, yes. So really why you get that catheter that you can like be walking on and then fall through is because it's usually held together from like roots and stuff. And then you don't know that everything under it has washed away. And it can be made of more competent material. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but not quite what that sentence says. But yes. So that is that. 1787 is when New Jersey became a state. Oh, okay, yeah, because I like looking at the Super World maps. I really thought, I guess, we needed the United States before we got. Yeah, I guess I like to look at the maps of like before we became a country. So I guess this makes sense. That makes sense. Now that I think about it, I don't look at a lot of the maps unless I look at like Vermont and stuff around like the end of the around like the 17. Well, I look at it around the time when we're still looking for one of our ancestors' parents, and he was born in 1799. Was William F. Dunham 1799 in Vermont? In Pomfret, Vermont. If anybody's near Pomfret, Vermont, and you guys can go to the records place, if you guys can go to like the town where they have the old like birth certificates and stuff, if you're near Pomfret, Vermont, and you could go into the basement and look up who William F. Dunham from 1799, December 31st, I think, of 1799 he was born. If you can look up who his parents are, that'd be great. That would solve a lot of problems for several people. New Jersey was the third port of entry in 1697. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You know, I just I have no time. I have ancestors that were in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Connecticut. Well, I have Massachusetts because of Salem. So I've been trying to look up old Massachusetts things just to see if I can figure out where my people are buried. Like, where would the old burying ground be? Where they put the victims of the witch trial. Where would that be? Because they lost it. So I've been trying to see if an old map ever showed up that had that information, or had a clue to where they would bury them. I look up a lot of Massachusetts, a lot of Vermont, and then a lot of New York because of New York, Vermont, whatever. I have people in New Hampshire, Exeter, New Hampshire. Anyway, but I just know New Jersey, which is why I was thinking to myself, why don't I ever see New Jersey? Because I see all these other states. We just didn't go to New Jersey. Or, as some pronounce it, New Jersey. That's for you, Betsy. Officially 1797. Split from North New Jersey and reunited in later 1600. That's interesting. I didn't know that New Jersey was a North New Jersey and such. That's interesting. I'm gonna be looking it up later. Oh my gosh, I looked up at the hurricane stuff just now. Confirmed tornado warnings. There's a whole lot of those. Oh, but there's also a confirmed hurricane warning. So I was looking. I got Ryan Hall. I got another YouTube channel on. Not mine. I'm watching another YouTube channel right now. That's only North Jersey accent. Well, what's the South Jersey accent? I was gonna just try a Southern accent just now, but it's no good. My accents are no good. Zach and I, coming back from my parents last time, laughed about my how bad I was at accents, because they all came. I tried an Italian accent, talking about pizza or something. That's not offensive, right? You know what? Whatever. Because I didn't say it in an offensive way, okay? Italian pizza. And I said it in an Italian accent. And then I tried to do other accents. And they all came out sounding Italian. I'm really bad at accents. And I know that it would not age well on YouTube if I tried it. I can only do one accent. I can only do one bad accent per stream, because then all the other ones will sound exactly like that one. Pineys? Or clam diggers? I really want to go to New Jersey. And I want you to tell me what to say in certain places of New Jersey that isn't offensive, but it's something that would get me dirty looks from, like, the locals. Like, what could a tourist say in New Jersey? That would give me dirty looks. I shouldn't do that on a vacation. Why would I do that on a vacation? I'd want to know what not to say. I'm a good person. But I do like to giggle. I like to giggle at things that are not harmful. Okay. Well, our food just arrived. So I'm going to eat. And everybody stay safe, hurricane or not. And thank you guys for coming. Thank you for stopping by Dandy Lioness. And thank you, Mitzi Scott. This is fun with you. And Copper Horse, it's always fun with you too. And so thank you so much for stopping by. Why am I saying it like that? Just thanks for stopping by. I'm normal, I swear. And Di, thank you so much. And Christina and Becca and Sam and Max. If you guys are still there, it's Tank and Java Jive. And Christina, did I say her? She's that person that's also an ancestor of mine. Oh, and Zach. He's my husband. He grabbed the food. You know him as the guy that just grabbed my food. People in the southern areas took offense to the Jersey Shore big time. Oh yeah, I totally believe that. Yeah. Yeah, some of those conversations about the Jersey Shore with some people from Jersey, that must have been, that must be very interesting to listen to, with their opinions on it. And I bet some people have some really great things to say about it that are really funny. Yep. Take care, everybody. Alright, I'm gonna go eat. Thank you for stopping by, and happy birthday to Amber. Let's end on her picture. Will have more to say someday about everything. But happy birthday for now. We can say happy birthday. And she would have been 43. And if at any point you want to just check out, maybe share the Text for Text in honor of Amber, or make a donation in Amber's name, just because, have Amber's legacy I think that it would be a good thing to have her be remembered in positive ways, like trying to help other children and all of that. Because yeah, she's just a little precious girl. She should be remembered with love and in good ways like this. Not helping groups like this. So, thank you, Dad, for sharing one more time. You're still there. It's still awake. Okay. Well, thank you, Becca and Sam and Max, for watching. And yes, now I'm going to go eat. And I'm still doing the Midwestern goodbye, but I want to make sure I put this up one more time for Amber. And happy birthday, Amber. And yep, she would have been 43, but she will always be a precious 2-year-old because people are terrible. But beautiful picture, a beautiful little girl. So happy birthday, Amber. Good night, everybody.